There's a couple of things that I want you to notice that a lot of people overlook. Oftentimes, when people read about the temptation of Jesus, they think about the three temptation attempts that Satan used to spiritually attack Jesus. But notice that Luke makes it clear in verse 2 of chapter 4 that from the moment Jesus stepped into the wilderness, he was constantly tempted by the devil for 40 days. You see, we only know of the three temptation attempts because it is written in the Gospels. But I believe that there was probably a whole lot more we don't know about. You see, let me put it to you this way. When you are evil, I mean really evil, and you want to destroy your enemy in the most brutal way, well, you attack them mentally and emotionally. You see, what you do is you lock them up and you deprive them of food and water. And then you deprive them of sleep so that your enemy can't think straight. You break them down and you strip away every need that their body has to function. And then you barrage them with mental attacks to destroy their will, even their will to live. You see, and once we begin to understand this, then we start to understand what Jesus faced in the wilderness. Now, hold on to that thought about the wilderness because I'm going to come back to that. But the other thing I want you to notice is that Luke, in verse 1 of chapter 4, said that Jesus was full. He was full of the Holy Spirit and was led by the Holy Spirit into the wilderness. But then in verse 14, we read that he came out of the wilderness in the power of the Holy Spirit. Now look, this is really important for us to learn because when we enter our own wilderness experience, we want to enter it in the fullness of the Holy Spirit so that the power of the Holy Spirit will manifest in us. Then we become more than conquerors through Jesus Christ who loves us. You see, the Greek word for fullness, right, in the Gospels means exactly that, right? To fill something that may be empty, to be complete, lacking nothing, to be perfect, like Jesus. And the Greek word in this Gospel for the power of the Holy Spirit signifies strength and ability, a power to perform miracles. It's interesting to notice that Jesus didn't perform miracles until after he came out of the wilderness experience. And we would be smart to pay attention to things like that. You see, as we enter the wilderness, and by the way, we will, there's no doubt about that, the Holy Spirit fills us with knowledge and wisdom to manage and to respond to the crisis that we are facing. And I guarantee you this, that if we handle things through the Holy Spirit, there are no regrets. I mean, come on, how many times have we jumped to conclusions? How many times have we lashed out in anger? We've lost our temper, said things that we regret later. We got into a fight, tried to drown out our sorrows with drugs or alcohol, or we were too scared to face our fears and insecurities, and the list goes on. Well, none of that stuff is of the Holy Spirit. But now I want you to think about walking with your head up high in the middle of the darkness, knowing that the Spirit of God has equipped you to take on the best that this world has to throw at you. But you continue to stand your ground, despite the attacks that come your way, and nothing or no one can overcome your resolve. I mean, are you going to have scars and bruises? Of course you will. But the enemy in your life has been defeated. And now you walk triumphantly in the power of the Holy Spirit, and you're able to accomplish more than you ever did before. And that's a great feeling. There was something about that wilderness experience that, although you felt weak and hurt, has now filled you with new strength. And finally, I want to help put this wilderness experience into perspective so that you're not caught by surprise. I want you to think about what happened in the wilderness. Think about this. Satan got word that Jesus was in the wilderness by himself. My friends, this is a huge, huge opportunity. Do you really think that Satan was going to send some subordinate demon to try to destroy Jesus' plans? Absolutely not. This was way too important to let some little demon mess it up. You see, the Bible calls Satan the Prince of Darkness, the God of this world. The fiery red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns that wept a third of the stars of heaven and threw them to the earth. In the kingdom of hell, there is no one more powerful than Satan. So, he went to go and take care of this himself. And for 40 days, he tormented Jesus. So now let me put it to you this way so that you can understand what this wilderness experience is like. Imagine a man, right, joins the Marines and he goes to basic training. He learns everything he needs to learn to go to war. Now he's filled with these new skills and military knowledge. And once he finishes basic training, he's now called a Marine. Now he goes to war. And now he sees death around every corner, blood and guts everywhere. Many of his close friends have been killed. Death and suffering everywhere. And he quickly realizes that nothing could have trained him for this. That man has just entered the wilderness. Or how about this? A woman married for 13 years has 4 beautiful young children, a loving husband, and a beautiful home. Well, she comes home one day to find that her husband has been arrested and charged with tax fraud and embezzlement. He is soon convicted to 15 years in prison, and the government has seized all assets and bank accounts. She has nothing. The house has been foreclosed on, she has no job, and the whole ordeal has led to divorce. This woman has just entered the wilderness. Listen, being full of the Holy Spirit when we enter the wilderness does not always mean that we're going to feel strong and capable of handling whatever comes our way. Chances are you're going to feel the opposite. But it does mean that hope is in God's hands, and He will see you through the other side. And if we read in verse 2, it says that Jesus was hungry. Not that He was full of strength, not that He was full of energy, not that He was walking in the power of God. He was hungry. In other words, He was hurt, weak, vulnerable. Now listen, we often feel the pain, and we go through things we wish we didn't have to go through. But like Jesus, there is power at the end of that struggle.